185milessouth.com.
Smash that Patreon button.
185 Miles South, a hardcore punk rock podcast.
Introducing first, the challenger, fighting out of the hard corner. The belt is on their mind, and Dan Sant is running out of time. Hailing from the greatest planet in the Milky Way, it is the #1 contender in the world!
Ben Merlis, a.k.a. Ben Edge, a.k.a. Bedge.
And his opponent, fighting out of the core corner, from parts unknown, weight unknown. Reason he didn't pick Minor Threat in the Straight Edge Super 7, unknown. It is the reigning, defending, undisputed 185 Miles South Trivia Champion of the world, Daniel, these questions are too easy, Sant!
All right, and the first question goes to the man who used to be the ref, but now he stepped out from the shadows, Ben Edge. Ben, who engineered the Dills 7-inch 198 seconds of the Dills?
Oh, man. I don't know the answer, so I'm going to guess that it was Dave Brown.
Gonna need a middle name as well.
I don't know David Brown's middle name.
I'm just kidding. It's incorrect. We shoot it to Dan for the potential steal. Dan, who engineered the Dills 198 seconds of the Dills 7-inch?
The singer of the Dills.
Well, that's that's interesting because I don't have it pulled up. I'm gonna guess that you're wrong, and we'll move on to your question. No points in round number 1. Dan, what's the name of the DC band that wrote notable songs such as Filler, I Don't Want to Hear It, and In My Eyes? Hint, their singer's first name was Ian.
Minor Threat.
A point to Dan. All right, we move back over to Ben for round 2. Ben, what band did a split 7-inch with E-Town Concrete in 1996 on Back to Basics Records?
I'm going to guess 25 to Life. Total guess.
We go to Dan for the potential steal. Dan, what band did a split 7-inch with E-Town Concrete in 1996 on Back to Basics Records?
I know this. So, anyone who's coming at me for the 2000s thing for not having E-Town on my list and not being bribed, just know that I do know that the New Jersey Brotherhood did a split with E-Town.
That's actually the name of the 7-inch. The band is Second to None.
Oh, well, I don't. Then I've seen this before.
But shout out to that 7-inch, dude. It's a certified classic. Okay.
The only reason the only reason I thought it was there's a band called New Jersey Brotherhood is because I thought they couldn't be called Brotherhood because of Brotherhood.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, Dan, we go back to you for round number 2.
Oh my
God. Okay, what?
That just makes me sound so stupid that I've always thought that this band was called New Jersey Brotherhood, but that's the name of the 7-inch.
Well, you might be mixing up because there is the band New Jersey Bloodline.
Yeah, Bloodline. I know that but they were NJ Bloodline, right?
That's right.
I just love that Dan threw it out there like, yo, I know this. Don't come at me, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Swing and a miss.
Yeah, but pretty close. That was pretty good. He named the name of the 7-inch is actually like kind of harder than the band they did a split with.
Honestly, respect.
Yeah, for real. Okay, Dan, we go to you for your question number 2. Dan, the band 7 Seconds hails from which Nevada gambling town?
That would be Reno, the biggest little city in the world.
Appointed to Dan Sant, the champ. Okay, and we go back to Ben for his question number 3. Ben, what's the 8th song on the Wasted Youth LP, Reagan's Inn?
Well, there's only 10 songs on it, and God, I feel like Uni-High B-Frag is sort of near the end, so I'm going to guess that. Total guess. Uni-High B-Frag.
We go to Dan for the potential steal. Dan, what is the 8th song on Wasted Youth, Reagan's Inn?
Skank It Up.
It's actually We Were on Heroin.
Oh, good song.
All right. We go to Dan for his question number 3. Dan, the Gorilla Biscuits logo depicts which notable animal?
A gorilla.
A point to the champ. He's a champ for the reason. He is the champ for a reason, people. Oh my God. Dan's sick and I am straight loony tonight. Okay, Ben, we go to you for question number 4. Ben, true or false? Richard Wright, the English footballer, was born on the same day as the official UK release date for the Sex Pistols' debut LP.
Oh God, that's November something 1977, but I don't know anything about Richard Wright, so I'm going to guess no? I mean, false?
A point to Ben. Sex Pistols LP comes out on November 4th, 1977. Richard Wright is born on November 5th, 1977.
Yo, honestly, respect for getting November as well.
Yeah.
No.
Serious respect. Also, does Ben get a bonus point if he can guess what position Richard Wright played?
He does not, but we'd like to ask him. Ben,
right,
do you know
right,
any soccer positions?
I think there's one called right wing, so I'm going to guess right wing.
He's a goalie.
Goalie!
Yeah,
Oh.
Ben, we weren't asking for your political affiliation.
Right.
Okay, we go back to Dan here. We go back to Dan for his question number 4. Dan, on the debut Sex Pistols LP, sticking with this theme, singer Johnny famously said, "God save the blank."
Queen.
A point to the champ. All right. And we go back to Ben for his question number 5. Ben, Suicidal Tendencies released their first LP on June 1st, 1983. What was the moon phase that evening?
Waxing. That's not specific enough, right? It's like there's waxing, there's waning, there's full moon, there's I don't know, I'll just say waxing.
I think you would have had to go waxing crescent, but incorrect. We go to Dan for the potential steal. Dan, Suicidal Tendencies released their first LP on June 1st, 1983. What was the moon phase that evening?
Waning.
You are half correct. We need the whole thing for a point.
Waning crescent.
Incorrect. It's actually waning gibbous.
Damn you. What's that? Never mind. Death Cab for Cutie. Damn you, Death Cab for Cutie.
Damn you, Moon.
Damn you, Galileo. Okay, Dan, here we are. Dan, your question number 5. Dillinger 4 has how many members?
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say they've got 4 members.
A point to the champ. All right. We go back to Ben for round number 6. Ben, Youth of Today's first EP, Can't Close My Eyes, was repressed in 1988 on German label We Bite Records. What was the color of the lettering on the front cover?
Yellow.
A point to Ben. Don't call it a comeback, people.
I have that one, man.
I believe it. I believe it. I thought you would. I got to give you a couple so you got some points to gamble with in round number 7. Okay, and Dan, we go to you for your question number 6. Spell mosh.
Mosh.
A point to the champ. All right, let's subtotal this up. We got Dan. He's got 6 points. And we got Ben holding strong with 2 points. Ben, how many points do you want to wager in this round where you will guess the Rick to Life lyric?
I'm going to be slightly conservative, and I'm going to wager 1 point.
All right. Ben wagers 1. And Dan, how many points would you like to wager?
3 points, please.
Okay. All right. Let's kick it off, fellas.
What? What? Okay.
Here we go, Ben. This is yours to guess.
Can I hear that one again?
You may. Here we go.
Let's do 3 in a row.
Here we go. 3 in a row.
I feel like he's saying the feel the light, the right people.
Wow, not even close. He's actually saying everyone fighting, everyone want to be the boss. Everybody,
What?
sing along. Everyone fighting, everyone want to be the boss. Everyone, sing along.
No way.
Dude, it's there. I hear it.
I
You
hear it,
Chris?
I hear it now. The S on boss
I hear
is
it.
cut off.
I feel like I was gonna say boss only got like half the word in there. Everyone would be the boss.
If he would have said everyone fighting, everyone want to be duh, I would have given it to him.
No, because you didn't give me that one when I got one frigging word wrong.
But that one word wasn't cut off a little bit. It just got confusing because the next thing comes like right after that. It's a good one. Anyway,
Before we
Ben
move
loses
on,
1 point.
Zach, before we move on, who engineered the goddamn Dills record? I've been thinking about that this whole time.
That would be Ian Michael Hamilton.
Okay, I don't know who that is at all.
I've got to say that Ben is an incredible sport because this is a railroad that even I have not seen. And
he did well. Like I thought he might have had that Dills one.
I was almost sure. I predicted that this is what would happen, and my prediction was correct. I know Zach so well.
He knew he was going to get a Dills question. He knew he was going to get an astrology question. It was all coming. All right, Dan, here we go. Wagering 3 points.
what? Oh God. Can you give me it 5 times in a row, please?
5 times. Here we go. Before we play it the 5th time, dude, this drumming is so good. That little hit on the hi-hat, that's insane. Dan, need an answer.
Ah, no, no, no. Da, da, da. I've seen this. Tattoo now. I don't know. I'm just
Actually,
beat. I'm just. I'm just beat down. It was too good.
dude,
I
that's
didn't
a good
expect
song.
it. I didn't expect it to actually sound like kind of cool.
Ben, you got a guess on this one since we listened to it 5 times?
No, I actually don't.
Okay. He goes, I'm turning point. Off the
Turning
song
Point.
Turning Point, Strength Through Unity. One more time. Everyone sing along. Come up front. Sing along. Pile on. Unity. Boom. Okay. Let's go to me for the final totals. Ben had 2 points. He wagered 1 point. He lost it because no one ever gets any of these right. So he ends up with 1 point. Dan, the champ Sant, had 6 points, wagered 3, lost them because no one ever gets a 25 to life lyric right. Ends up with 3 points, still the champion. Dan, these questions are too easy. Sant.
You know what? I'm really going to. I've said this before and I've not really done it, but I'm going to listen to 25 to Life a lot more because I am determined to get one of these right one of these days.
These two, because Ben's was separate ways off Keeping It Real. Keeping It Real and Strength Through Unity are both legit good. Good songs, good recordings. I love those records. All right, we're going to talk some newer-ish tunes. And kicking off, I just wanted to highlight a single song before we jump into some newer albums. This song came out this year. The song is called Swan Song. It's by a band called Kublai Kahn, and it is the singer of that band plus Vogel. And dude, this song rules so hard. Like, okay, I love that throwdown record, Haymaker. It just sounds so good. You bang it loud, and the drumming is so good. The production is so good. It's super catchy. And this song just like really tickles that itch for me. Plus, like the lyrics are pretty wild, you know? Yeah, I just love the song. Wanted to highlight it, wanted to get it on the playlist so everyone can listen to it. And Chris, what do you think about this?
First off, recording is sick. It sounds great, like Zach said. Like stylistically, not a huge, like personally, I'm not a huge fan of stuff that leans a little bit this far onto like the deathcore tip. But it's cool. It sounds awesome. If you like that stuff, you'll love this. I do appreciate the effort to cover really tough subject matter, including, you know, domestic abuse, sexual assault, addiction, sex trafficking, all kind of stuff that they hit on. And then one thing that I really like is just kind of like the call and response between Vogel and their vocalist and how they play off of each other. It just sounds super intense. And then they do it again on the bridge to the breakout, the bridge to the breakdown. So I think it's sick that like my favorite part, they kind of do it again just to bring it home. You know, it's one of those times where you're like, ooh, I wish they'd do that again. And then they do it again.
Yeah, yeah. Scratch that itch. Ben,
Yep.
Did you get anything out of this song?
Well, I appreciate the sentiment, but the music reminds me of Bleeding Through mixed with like mid 2000s false harmonic era Danzig, like wee, a lot of those squeedly wheedlies. The vocals sound like two bodybuilders screaming at each other while they're, you know, between reps. But, you know, their hearts are in the right place. You know, I can't fault them for, you know, tackling this subject matter that doesn't really get talked about very much within this style of music. I mean, it's fair to say that, right?
Well, Ben, you're the aficionado, so you're dropping the truths on us. Dan, what's your take on this?
I think lyrically, this is an incredible song. Like, I think there are it's incredible in two ways. I think one, that it is attempting to harness, all this pain and process it and showcase it. And then there are some incredible, just single lines within the song that are very poetic and very kind of like street poet, like for example the first line, to all the ladies working Iowa 80 selling pussy to the chrome on the interstate. Like that description of the truckers rolling in and stuff, calling them chrome, that's so cool. Like that, I don't know, it's just very folksy. And
there's great lines, Dan, like that graves beneath the family tree of abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is a incredible achievement topic wise, and yes, the sound is great, and it is it's very heavy. Both Vogel and the singer of this band are turned up to 79. And then Chris, when you say deathcore, what is deathcore like? Because I have a hard time differentiating between a lot of the different metallic sounds that are, very heavy.
All right, you're really putting me out on a on a limb that I don't really know too well either, to be honest. I may be totally off base here because again, deathcore is not really my theme, but as I understand it, it's kind of like a cross between heavier hardcore and more on the death metal tip.
Okay,
that's what from my anytime I hear something that's a little more metal than I don't know, 100 Demons or something that's more in the lane of a Jesus piece or something like that. Maybe that's wrong and it's not deathcore, but that's kind of what I kind of label it as.
Yeah.
So whether or not that fits the actual mold, what I'm saying here is a little bit more on the metal tip than I typically like, a little bit more down tuned. Certainly maybe even some kind of new metal guitar tones.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think one thing that you might not grab right away when, and that's the great thing, that when we do listen to a lot of these things or try to give a little analysis towards them, especially stuff that maybe isn't right in our wheelhouse to start with, part of doing that is pulling up the lyrics and listening along there. And then when I read these lyrics, I just was this has made me like the song 100 times more than when I just first listened to it on the way to work.
Right. If they were talking about snapping your head off your neck, this song isn't spectacular, right? But it's pretty rad, because the sentiment's good, and then also it's got the poetry to back it. And on their Facebook, they call themselves metalcore. So there's that.
I think on the lyrical tip, maybe this isn't the best comparison, but it kind of reminded me of maybe a hardcore take on Immortal Technique a little bit, certainly covering heavy disturbing stuff, and some of the language is even a little bit shocking, in that Immortal Technique vein. What are your thoughts on that, Zach? I know you're a big Immortal Technique head.
I think that's fair. I closed out the lyrics, but yeah, there was kind of a visceral line in there about rape for sure that went a little further than a normal lyric would touch on it, So I think that's a pretty apt call out, to lay out some lines that seem really shocking in order to draw you in, I think that's fair. Yeah, this is notable. Everyone check it out on the playlist, 185milessouth.com. Click that playlist link at the top of the page and check out the music that we are talking about. Wanted to move on to another band, earlier this year, they had put out an EP that we talked about. So hit those archives if you want to hear that. The band is Rest Easy. The album is called Hope You're Okay. And Chris, you're big on this, aren't you?
Yeah, I really like this band. I think this is a great pop punk record. It does lean a little bit more face to face than the 7-inch. You know, the 7-inch was very like Lifetime Kid Dynamite, and this is a little bit cleaner, a little bit less, a little bit slower at times. Although there certainly are tracks that are a little bit more rip-in. Tough Break, Broken Wrists, Empty Vessel, The Hill, Times Change are all ones that get into that, that faster kind of lane that the 7-inch occupies. I personally prefer that stuff more. So like the 7-inch, I think is just perfection. It's 4 songs that I love, whereas this LP is a great LP, and all the songs are great. Some of the songs hit me a little bit less just because it's a little bit cleaner sounding. But yeah, this is really good. I think, another thing, this band writes some banging hooks on the song On the Outside. There's a part where the chorus is, I was standing on the outside thinking about the inside looking back, and like that part is just so damn catchy, like the kind of thing you get stuck in your head all day. So yeah, really good LP. I really like it. I may not listen to it as much as I do the LP just because stylistically it doesn't resonate quite as much as me, like cover to cover, but I think it's still really good. I think the bands in this, or the guys in this band, rule. I hope they explode. This is a record that I think is certainly very explode worthy.
Ben, your favorite hardcore record of the 90s is Lifetime Hello Bastards. Does this scratch that itch at all?
Not really. I mean, I'd say it's a little bit more Kid Dynamite-ish than Lifetime-y. Maybe in the vocals or just the songwriting. And I like Kid Dynamite too, so that's not a bad thing to sound like Kid Dynamite. But there's like, what I wish I had done is gone back and listened to that EP again, because I remember liking that, and I'm not that into this, and I want to know what the EP had that this doesn't have, or what this has that I'm not that into, that changes my opinion of it from the EP. But I noticed there's this like weird vocal effect that I can hear when he's holding notes, and I mean, I don't know if it's auto-tune, but it sounds like a human voice mixed with a harmonica. Do you know what I'm talking about? When he's like, he's singing, and he's like, it'll go from the verse to the chorus, and he holds out a note, and there's just like this weird thing happening. I can't put my finger on what the hell it is. It's an effect. And that irks me. It's definitely on, if not every song, most of the songs I can hear it on. And like, this was like a really tough style to pull off in general, because the marshmallow really wants to fall off the stick, to borrow a Zach expression. And like, the marshmallow is running away from the stick with a song like Hey Maxine. So it's like a balancing act between hardcore and pop punk. Just for any band that's doing this style of music, it's this delicate balancing act, because, pop punk would be like, it's the marshmallows in the fire. Hardcore is like the fucking marshmallow's not even getting cooked, so you want something in the middle. And I think this record goes a hair too far in the pop punk direction for my tastes. And I don't know why it works for, like, okay, they have a song called Hey Maxine. Lifetime has a song called Hey Katrine. Why does it work for Lifetime? And I think it's because when you put yourself in a position like that, like, your songs have to be that much better to counteract the potential corniness. It's like you're placing a burden on yourself. You're like, I'm going there, so I have to be really good. You know what I mean? It's like how people who are assholes have to be that much better at their job to keep from getting fired. It's like, you're making this hard on yourself. But like, okay, if that's how you want to roll. And then the other thing is, I know I'm bashing this record, which is terrible, because I'm sure they're really nice guys. But another thing, it's when you have a 12-song LP and you're a punk band, hardcore, whatever, it's really you really don't want the songs to sound too samey because there's a lot of songs, and I think that a lot of these songs do sound very samey to me.
Man, I really fucked up with this one, huh? Because I thought that you and Chris were going to sing the praises. I didn't know how Dan was going to go, and then I was going to be kind of critical.
Well, I liked the EP, so I mean that was an
I
educated
know.
guess on your part.
I like the EP a lot. This is just, I don't know. When I listen to it, like the sum of the parts is like, I think the singing's really good. I think they write some really good vocal hooks, like the one that Chris brought up, right? The On the Outside. The songs are fast and short. I don't agree 100% with what Chris is saying that he thinks it slowed down a little bit. I think that all these songs are pretty fast, short, simple. It's just they have 12 songs on here, and I agree with Ben a little bit about like some of it gets a little samey, and the reason why it's samey is like it's like did they forgot to like do any sort of guitar leads. So it's like 12 songs, and I don't think there's a single like guitar hook. And, you know, if you listen, I don't know what to compare it to. Let's just go back to Stay Gold and Lifetime and Saves the Day, stuff like that, right? This is stuff that I like of this genre. And the Rest Easy EP, although I don't fully remember it. But like all those bands, they're balancing like vocal hooks and guitar hooks, and it really cuts it up nicely. And yeah, it's almost like they built this like, because look, all these songs, like I listen to the riffs, I'm like, man, these are good riffs. I don't know how they keep thinking of these different riffs on all these songs that are really good. And like, I feel like all the singing's good. All the vocal hooks are pretty good, but it's like they built like this big, beautiful wedding cake, right? Like a 12 song, really good melodic hardcore LP, but then they like forgot to put the sugar in, you know? Cause like there's literally like no guitar hooks on this record at all. And so I don't know, like I had to listen to it again to be like, what? Like, why is there not just one like, you know? Like, fuck, dude. I'm like crawling through the desert, like looking for an oasis, and it's just not there. And that's a bummer. So it's like everything's good about this. There's just something missing, and I think that's it. And it's very disappointing because it's like almost like if they went back and just put in some guitar hooks, I think this record's like a 9 out of 10. But like without them, yeah, it's that cake without the sugar. It's kind of, it just gets samey and it's kind of hard to get through. And I feel terrible saying that because I like to keep the review stuff, like the review parts of this podcast, like totally positive because I'm choosing things that I like a lot, right? I don't think that we should waste time on stuff that I don't like or love, or people in this group don't like or love. And fuck, I really thought I was serving this up for Ben and Chris to love, and that's a bummer, man. Dan, what's your take on it? Save this.
It's got a cool picture on the cover of, looks like a bridge, very similar to the Bay Bridge, but it's got like bricks at the bottom on fire and the Rest Easy logos in flames. It's pretty cool. Other than, it doesn't do much for me, unfortunately. I don't really. This is going to sound a bit obnoxious, but whatever. I used to spend a lot of time with like Get Up Kids, 4 Minute Mile, and lots of bands of the ilk at the same time, like all doing, you know, somewhat this sound, but this is more hardcore than that. But the way that this kind of genre has people singing and hitting those like, and the changing of a note and it just crescendoing, I've grown out of being able to lock in on that anymore. I don't even listen to Lifetime hardly at all anymore. Either. I just, something about this kind of vocal that it just doesn't compute to me anymore. So it's unfair. But that being said, there are a few great jammers on this. Like, I really liked On the Outside, Broken Wrists, Coast to Coast, that little block there, or Coast to Coast into Broken Wrists into Onto the Outside. That little block there was really cool. And I mean, they can play, they can write songs, they're fantastic. It's just not a genre for me. But it's God. I want to be able to be the one who brings all the positivity and light to this. And for many of our listeners out there, if you check this out, you're gonna absolutely love it. It's poppy punk with sing-alongs, and the things I'm referencing. If you like Get Up Kids, Kid Dynamite, and things like that, there's definitely some stuff on here for you. I love Kid Dynamite. There's just something about Kid Dynamite that was that one little lightning in a bottle for the kind of music that it is, because tons of bands can sound like them, and I'm not going to love it, but I just liked that then. And like I say, if this had come out in 1999, it might have been one of my favorite releases. Like, if it came out around the same time as like 4 Minute Mile by Get Up Kids and Jimmy Eat World, Bleed American, like, I would have been blasting this like crazy at the same time. But I just can't go back.
Fair enough. Let's move on to the Anklebiter demo 2022. Chris, I believe this was a recommendation from you, so it must rule. What's your take on this?
I love it. I love this. Hold on, let me start over. The intro to the first song is just kind of meh. Like, first time I checked it out, I was like, nonplussed, I guess. But I'm glad I kept listening to it, because this is really cool. Like, the intro's not bad. It's just kind of like, fine. And then the rest of it is awesome, I think. It really reminds me a lot of Rotting Out when Walter first started singing. Like, it has like that kind of a vibe. So I think these are pretty young kids too, which is really cool to see, like super young kids playing fast hardcore. And then, I dug up some stuff where they self-cited, their inspirations being Locking Out bands. Specifically, they cited Mental, Righteous Jams, Razzle Dazzle. So if you're into that kind of stuff, definitely check this out. This is a band from, I think, like Massachusetts, Connecticut area. I think maybe members of Pommel and Broken Vow. My favorite track on this is My Creator. The lyrics are really cool. It's a bit intentionally vague and personal, but I found an interview where the singer talked about it a little bit, and the explanation was also a little bit vague. So you could tell that this is like an extremely personal song. What the vocalist said is, it's a song about a personal experience I went through 6 years ago. I wrote the initial skeleton for this track lyrically in 2020 when I had an insane deja vu experience, and experienced again on the anniversary of the event. This is where 4 years to fucking number. I've lived this life 1,000 times. It never gets number came from. So yeah, I really dig this. I think they just did a tour out east with Scal and Jive Bomb and some others. So hyped to see them, get out on the road, get with some bands that are really popping right now, and hopefully turn some heads. And then last thing I'll say, this came out on Sunday Drive Record, which I think is maybe, I don't know, in my opinion, it's kind of quietly becoming a pretty banging record label. And there may be some people listening to it and being like, yeah, not even quietly, like, they put out some awesome stuff. I think, it's starting to be one of those labels where if they drop something, I know I got to pay attention when something new comes out. They put out Broken Vow. They put out Squint, Pummel. They did the Spark record, which is a personal favorite of mine from Germany. So props to them as well.
Hell yeah. I agree with you, Chris. I think that this doesn't start out spectacularly, but it's kind of like the snowball rolling down the hill, to bring out another metaphor, because by song number 3, that song Not For You. Dude, on that chorus, it's just like pure wildness. I absolutely love it. And then it's like when it goes to the second verse, like the wildness doesn't stop from the chorus. Like that verse is like super wild too. And they add in that little guitar hook and then it goes back into that chorus and it's really out of this world. I have no idea when the singer takes a breath. Like it's just, dude, that song rips. Like straight up. It's one of my favorite songs of the year. Just because, like, the first time I was listening to it, I was like, what the fuck is happening here? You know? And then it kept happening, and they added, like, a guitar part, and I was like, whoa, this is so wild. And then, like, it comes back to, like, the super, super wild part again. I was just like, fuck. I loved it. Also, and then the fourth song is a banger, too. The My Creator that Chris had talked about. It's just, like, a killer mid-tempo banger. You know? It gives me, like, big-time Raw Power vibes, if I'd have to lead it on something, you know, that Screams from the Gutter LP. It's like they got the fast songs, but when I really lean into it is when they do like that up tempo, mid tempo stuff, and the singer just like lets loose and goes for the da 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 da. Well, it's over like as fast as you can downstroke. So those two songs back to back are absolutely spectacular, which makes me love this thing. I think it rules super hard. Ben, what's your take on this?
Well, we got to talk about that cover art. You got cute little straight edge cartoon goblins massacring each other, and that warms my cold heart. Musically, I don't get the Raw Power thing. Raw Power kind of has a metal edge to it. They're not metal core, but you know they've got that kind of metal. Like they must have heard
they just
that.
Have a guitarist that shreds. That's all. But like but other than that, it's just like. They either play fast or they play that up tempo, mid tempo. I don't take any of the Raw Power stuff off Screams from the Gutter as metal, other than one of the guitarists totally shreds.
Okay, maybe that's it. Maybe it's just the shredding guitar, which I don't know if Anklebiter.
I don't know if you listen like Annihilation Time. Do you think that like there's metal there? It's just I mean it's a up tempo punk band with like a guitarist that shreds. I don't get the heavy metal piece.
Yeah, maybe. Well, anyway, what I hear in Anklebiter is kind of straight down the middle, fast, early 80s style East Coast hardcore with breakdowns. Like they'd fit in playing an Abused show in 1983, like that kind of vibe. I'm not too into the vocals. That I've talked about this before. Like high pitched yelling is just doesn't generally speaking doesn't do it for me. I'm sure I could think of, bands that have, singers that do high pitched yelling that I like, but it's not a normal thing for me to be into. None of it really stood out for me. Like I can't single out a song or a part of a song to be like, damn, that shit was awesome. I mean, it's fine.
Dan, what's your take?
Well, I like the intro. I like how it's hammering on the same kind of notes, like on a repetition status. It's super cool. Vocals came in and they shocked me. I didn't expect it to be so, high pitched and fast, like vocally. So when that kicked in on Red Tones, I was like, oh shit. I think the weakest track is Talk About Me, which is track 2. And then track 3 and 4, Not For You, into My Creator, is so good. That song, My Creator, like Chris said, it seems like it's bringing up a near-death experience. And lyrically, it's written really well. Same as the song Not For You. That's also awesome lyrics. I really dug it. I can't wait to hear more from it, but I think lots of our people who dig lots of the stuff that is on our like that listen to this pod are gonna really enjoy this, because musically it's really fast and epic hardcore with some really snotty, like almost West Coast hardcore, early West Coast hardcore sounding vocals. Super cool.
Hell yeah. Everyone check it out on the playlist, 185milessouth.com. Click that playlist link at the top of the page. Check out the music that we were talking about. Next up, I wanted to talk a band that Ben found. It is called Split System. The record we're talking is Volume 1. Ben, I don't mean to set you up for a question that you don't know the answer to, but is it called Volume 1 because it's like a bunch of EPs put together, or is it just their first LP?
I think the latter. I think it's just their first LP, so they're calling it Volume 1. Kind of like ZZ Top's first album. Because I don't think they're... Yeah, I don't think it's a bunch of EPs combined. I think they did what most people do on Spotify, where they release single tracks from an album leading up to an album release. So that was the case with this. But yeah, they're from Melbourne, Australia. And Australia seems to have been pumping out, or just in modern times. I mean, I'm noticing this, that there's a lot of good punk coming out of Australia, and I mean like straight up punk music, not 1.5, not hardcore, not metalcore, not like just punk music, like 70, like dyed in the wool, like late 70s style, like the Chats. There's this other band, Stiff Richards, that are really good, all coming out of Australia. This band,
Amyl and the Sniffers.
Amyl and Sniffers, I'm not a fan of, but yeah, they're from Melbourne. They're from the same town as Stiff Richards and Split System, for sure. This band, I'd say, sounds closer to the Saints than any other band, but they're not copycats. The song ringing in my head uses that first part of the main riff from Pipeline by the Shantays, which is that do 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 that thing, and that reminds me of how Radio Birdman breaks into the Hawaii 5-0 theme song in one of their songs, but like Split System doesn't overdo it. Like they work it into their song. Radio Birdman just starts playing the Hawaii 5-0 theme song, which always bugged me. It's like, your song was so good before you just started doing a cover song in the middle of it. Split System, it's like, I wouldn't, and the thing about calling it 70s style punk, I'd say what they're doing is like an evergreen style of punk. They're not leaning into those 70s tropes, like they don't have songs about sniffing glue, and like they're not dudes who wear white creepers and pants that have all those useless zippers glued onto them. Like they're not like cartoon 70s punk. It's just like it's music that works for any era. The production's great. A lot of the songs are great. My favorite two songs are Demolition and Run On, which I think are tracks 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, something like that. Todd Jones came up with the term single coil pickup punk to describe music like this, because we started sending each other bands like this back and forth recently. And that if you're not like a guitar player, that it basically means like the thin guitar tone, like the opposite of like a chunky guitar tone. And it's not an insult. Like we're both into this kind of stuff. It's just this like retro kind of thing. The singer kind of reminds me of Alec Mackay in the tone of his voice, like the Faith or Ignition era Alec Mackay, but obviously with an Australian accent. I think my only micro critique is that some of the songs could be shorter, but none of it's ruined for me. Like there's bands that like they play for so long, it's like, I don't want to listen to this song again. Like recently I've been listening to this Split System album every day. So the songs feeling a little long isn't keeping me from listening to this every day. So I it's definitely one of my favorites of the year so far, and the year is almost over.
Yeah, I absolutely love this thing. The little guitar hooks on it are so perfect. Like that intro on Run On is great. It's you mentioned Birdman. I think it's a lot of Radio Birdman here, and they can bring the heat too. So to mix it up with something like a Rose Tattoo, maybe, also Aussie, and then maybe also like with the ripping stuff, like that Belgian band, The Kids. So I think it's somewhere of a mashup there. Birdman meets Rose Tattoo meets The Kids.
And the zeros.
And this thing rips.
I
Well,
hear
what's that?
zeros in them too. I hear the zeros in them too from the San Diego band.
We'll get into that. Yeah, the second 7-inch zeros maybe. But yeah, and then they can like let it rip, right? Like that "Hit Me" song is like full YOLO. The first song too is like a kind of a weird song where he's just repeating stuff that doesn't super make sense, but it gives like a sleazy vibe, kind of like a Rose Tattoo vibe. The "Hit Me" is kind of the same way. That song "It Ain't You" is like perfect song. "Ultimatum" is like a near perfect slower song, and that's something we talk about is what separates the really good bands from the great bands, being able to pull off a great slow song. Shout out Muldoon. And yeah, that Ring in My Head, perfect. I absolutely love this LP. It's not available. I can't find it anywhere. There's none even for sale on Discogs. Or it looks like there's one. The more rare version is selling for 58 Aussie dollars or whatever, plus $25 shipping. Oof. So yeah, if someone has one of these, hit me up. I'd really, really like it. And yeah, I love this. Ben, so stoked that you found this thing because I'm listening to it, if not every day, every other day. Love it. Dan, what's your take?
I was going to say, I wonder if their lack of stickiness works against them. Like Amyl and the Sniffers is so sticky, and so are the Chats, and like that gets people's attention. And this is like just a really good punk record, and like the record cover is in black and white. It's just like I could see it getting lost in the sauce, and like it's definitely one of those records where you listen to it. The more you listen to it, the more it grows on you. So I hope they do well.
Well, it just came out a month ago, right? So we'll see. If they hit the road and tour, maybe they will get the notoriety that those other bands did. But, before this, I think they just had like an EP and a digi single out. So who knows? LP is brand new. So yeah, it came out about 6 weeks ago, October 6th. Dan, what's your take on this?
I love it. I really love it. I'm really happy that this has been, brought to the fore. It's super good. It's got, obviously all the sound alikes that have been mentioned are on point, like especially the Australian influences with it being so lazy. But it's got, total like Modern Lovers, Jonathan Richman, like early style, like kind of lethargy on the vocals. It's cool. It's rad. It also reminds me, I don't know if any of you have been into the band X-Cult before. They came out like in 2012, had an amazing EP and then a couple good records after that too. But it reminded me a lot of X-Cult when I started listening to it as well. So I definitely think it's one of those things where, yeah, it's bordering on being a little long as an LP, but you at the same time you don't want it to end. So it's that weird thing where empirically, yes, it's maybe a little too long, but vibe wise and like the way you feel while listening to it, and especially if you drive in or going about, you've got it on in the background while you're working, like it's perfect. It's a perfect record for that. It's got great amount of catchiness, but it's also got a great amount of like, don't really give a fuck attitude as well.
Yes. That's what it does so spectacularly, right? Is like it somehow is able to balance like this laid back ass attitude of the singer, but then he can like let it go too with like that Hit Me song, right?
Yeah.
It's like how does he like balance this chill shit with this like YOLO shit? It's really spectacular, and his voice is great, and the guitar hooks are great. This thing rules, dude. I really, really want it. So someone get it for me. I appreciate it.
Put out the CD.
Chris, what's your take on this? Yeah, and put it on CD for Ben too. He'll buy 2 of them. Chris, what's your take on this?
Dan's explanation I thought was really good. Both like the sound as well as the length, because there's something I really like this a lot too. And I was kind of struggling with who to compare it to, because I hear little pieces of bands like here and there, but nothing that I'm like, oh yeah, this sounds like, this band sounds like the Wipers, or this band sounds like, whoever, Stiff Little Fingers or whatever. But like I hear little things here and there, and I like how Dan put it about like the not giving a fuck kind of attitude, balanced with some of the catchiness. I also like what you said too about the length of the record being empirically long, because I kind of thought the same thing too. Like as I was listening to it, I was like, wait, there's still like 3 or 4 more songs on this. This is kind of long. But as I'm listening to it, I'm like, that's not too long. So it's interesting that he had that same kind of experience too. But yeah, I really like this. I added it to I have a playlist like every year that's like, best of whatever year it is. And I'll throw stuff on it that I really like and I really want to hit again. And this, I added it to it. So nice work, Ben.
I wonder if they would have put Ultimatum a little like up in the album sequence, if that would have cut up the album a little more for you. Because Ben, it sounded like we're not criticizing, because I think all 4 of us love this LP, but Ben, it sounded like you were saying you thought the songs were a little long, and then Dan and Chris, you're saying maybe the album is a little too long. Am I correct on that?
I'm not even saying too long. I'm saying it, like when you look at the tracks, like it looks long on paper, but then you're listening to it and it, it plays really well. So
I think it's a bit of both. Like, for what my normal attention span would be, these songs are a little bit longer, and the album is a little bit longer than what my normal attention span would be. But this is so good that it overrides that attention span and just keeps you loving it.
Yeah, fair enough. I do wonder if the sequencing, if they moved up Ultimatum to like the middle of the record, if it would have cut up the record a little more. But
because
I love this thing.
Ultimatum's like the slow song. That's what you mean.
Right. So you think that you either want to use it to cut up the album, or you want to put it last. They put it second to last. So,
dude, every time you guys say Ultimatum, has anyone ever seen Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates?
No,
I don't think so.
Oh man, hilarious movie. But there's a scene where they're talking about the word ultimatum, and it just cracks me up every time. It's like, are you saying old tomato?
Oh, that's funny. All right.
Well,
Let's
says
move.
ultimatum, like a tomb or a crypt.
All right. Let's move on to Dan's home country. The band is Last Wishes. The LP is called Organized Hate. And I chose this one just for Ben. Ben, what's your take on this?
First off, had no idea this band is British. No idea whatsoever. Do you hear an accent in the singer's voice, Zach?
I do not. Dan, do you hear it? Are you able to be that dialed in?
No, not really. Apparently, the singer and one of the other members is from Northern Ireland and had moved to Leeds to start the band. So if you're going to hear anything, you would hear apparently a Northern Irish accent. At least that's what I heard. But anyway, continue, Ben. Sorry.
Yeah, allow me to describe the cover art. It's a cartoon of a guy in a hockey mask holding a pit bull on a chain in front of a bunch of smokestacks, squatting next to a burning van and some empty spray paint cans. And I suppose he's the one responsible for graffitiing the band name in the sky. And there's some skulls, because why not? And then the album title is in Old English font. So picture that in your head. And it sounds exactly like you would think it would based on that cover art. The singer, we were listening to something very metallic a couple, maybe 3 or 4 episodes ago. I can't even remember who it was. And I said, the singer reminds me of Russ from Eyelid. And this guy kind of does too. So now I'm just wondering, do I just think everyone sounds like Russ from Eyelid? So now I'm not trusting my own ears anymore. And there's a part in the song Loyalty where you hear clean vocals come in, and it's just like, whoa, I didn't expect that. And then I love doing this this is so fucking beat down. Like, of course I don't like that. Anyone who listens to this podcast knows I don't like the style of music. So I just want to like add like value to this by talking about the movie samples that they used in some of their songs, like Organized Hate, the movie sample at the beginning where he says, they don't care about you. You're just a piece of meat to them, is from the 2014 film 71, which is about a young and disoriented British soldier who was accidentally abandoned by his unit following a riot on the deadly streets of Belfast. So now that makes sense that Dan says that the guy's from Northern Ireland, that he would use a sample from that movie, which I've never seen or heard of before. And then the one at the beginning of the last song, which is entitled In Remembrance, the quote is, "The dead only know one thing. It is better to be alive." And that is from Stanley Kubrick's excellent 1987 Vietnam War film, Full Metal Jacket. And there you have it. Proof that I listened to this entire album.
Yeah, I dig this thing a lot. Outside of those clean vocals on Loyalty are about as bad as it gets. But I kind of like it in a way too, because maybe they're channeling some Fury of 5, and I don't 100% like when Fury of 5 does that either, but I don't know. It's a cool band of this genre to be name checking there, or to circle back and take some influence from. So that's kind of cool. But that part, oof, it's rough for me. But the rest of it is super sick. They do such a good job of channeling like this 90s beatdown sound. There's a lot of bands that play that style now that get name checked as being beatdown, but these guys do such a good job of really shining through like some of that Bulldoze influence. And also like the recording doesn't sound like it's made in a lab, and I do love that made in a lab sound where just everything sounds perfect and everything is triggered and they're probably not even using real amps and whatever. Like, I just like big sounding recordings like that, but this actually, it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like a natural recording. They pull it off real good. If I had to explain this band or whatever, I would say it's somewhere between One Second Thought and Bulldoze. And yeah, I just dig it. It holds my interest all the way through. I'm not a big fan of samples, so if I was going to have any critique, I'd kill those clean vocals and hack off all the samples. But hey, it is what it is. This thing is, I don't know, it's almost 10 songs, right? Yeah, 10 songs, and it keeps my interest all the way through, which is a total win for this style. And I think they do it really well. So I wanted to highlight it on the pod. Dan, what's your take on this?
So, I don't like that like singy vocal part either, but at the same time, I do like the palate cleansy, like shift of gear that it gives you for a little bit. It's kind of like I don't know. What band would you say would incorporate vocals like that?
It's Fury of 5 and Sheer Terror are like the two, right? And Blood for Blood.
I'm trying to think of, God, what's the old NYHC band that has singy vocals like this?
Maximum Penalty?
No. And the singer has transitioned, I believe.
Oh, Life of Agony.
Oh, Life of Agony?
Yes, Life of Agony. Like, has a little bit of element of that on those parts, I feel. But anyway.
The Life of Agony vocals are like belted though.
Yeah.
Like that's not like, this is like da ba da ba da da. Life of Agony like goes for it.
Yeah. Well, I saw this band recently, and it was very heavy and very moshy, extremely moshy. They played with Terror and High Vis in London, and it was really hard. And I'd obviously listened to this a few times before. Like when this first came out, Zach, didn't we share the video with each other for Loyalty?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
I think I shared it with you. There's a video for the song Loyalty. And Ben, even though, he's like being a little facetious, but yeah, if you look at this artwork, you do know what the band sounds like. And also, I got tattooed in Leeds at a place where the artwork for this, like what the original piece of artwork I think was, is on the ceiling of the tattoo studio. So it was like up on the tattoo studio ceiling. So I was like, oh, speaking to Simon, the person who tattoos there, like, and he says like lots of the dudes in the band like hang out there a lot. So I was like, because I thought someone who worked there might be in the band, but he just says they all hang out there because it seems to be a Leeds hardcore hangout spot. But it's, like you say, channeling like the purest form of what, when this genre was birthed in the 90s, called beatdown. Like the breaks that it does with the dun 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 like parts, it strips it down to what that essence of the 90s style was, instead of adding like extra noise or leads or whatever. It really synthesizes down to that. And it also follows or like celebrates the fact, like going from breakdown to breakdown, like breakdown to further breakdown. Do you know what I mean? So it's all about the mosh, and it's very well crafted mosh music.
Yeah, it's not like they're another building block in this like subgenre. It's definitely like a channeling back to the 90s sound of this, and that's what makes it so cool. And yeah, I got pulled in by the album cover, because like you see an album cover that's this sick and you're like, God, I hope I like this, And then luckily I did. So it's pretty cool. And also it's another record on Days, and they have just been seeming to put out a lot of stuff recently that I've liked a lot. So shout out to that record label. And Ben, they did put this out on CD, so there is a little piece for you.
I wonder if they put it out on CD because it's like a throwback to their like beatdown heroes from the 90s who had like CD only releases. Actually, I don't even know. Did those bands, is a lot of that stuff on vinyl too? Fuck if I know. But people bought a lot of CDs in the 90s. I know that.
Yeah, some of it is on vinyl because like that was so accessible and cheap to make, right? At one point, like CDs were gnarlier to make than doing 7 inches. You know what I mean? Chris, what's your take on this?
I think most of you guys said everything that I wanted to point out, but I think Ben's description of the artwork, while it was certainly accurate, I think one thing that's missing from it that will stand out the second that you look at it is probably, if you haven't seen this before, you were picturing this in your head as like black and white, or at least like very neutral tones, and it's like red, yellow, orange. So it's like, not only is there a lot going on in the artwork, but it really like pops out, it's in your face. So certainly of the era and of the genre, a lot of the stuff that you guys commented on sound, I think, same page there. The recording, I liked when Zach was talking about that, because it doesn't sound like super, super polished. And I like Zach's, words that it doesn't sound like it was in a lab. Like it sounds a little bit, I don't know, a little bit unhinged, which I think works for it. But not my favorite genre in the world. And typically for this style of band, like when I'll really starting to appreciate them more is when I see them live. So hopefully I get to see these guys live someday. But I will listen to it a few more times, and not sure yet if anything on here will get onto the Crush All Weights playlist or not, but it's certainly genre correct, and it would definitely fit in there. So I just got to give it some more listens and figure out like what that track would be if it's going to be on there. So,
Dude, also, let's just dig back into this artwork because I can't get enough of it. I love the bonus skull in the upper left-hand corner. Like, is it
in the moon?
That's what I'm thinking. It's like, dude, it's a moon skull, so that's sick. How about that little tiny-ass rat in the upper right-hand corner? Is crawling along that wall. And then also, to the left of last, there's a little bit of barbed wire. So it's like, this thing has it all. It rules. 2 different color of bricks. Shout out for that. And yeah, this thing rips. Everyone check out the playlist, 185milessouth.com. Click that playlist link at the top of the page and check out the music that we talk about.
The fight lasts for hours, each ram battering the other dozens of times.
Head to head.
All right, we are going head to head. 2 great hardcore comps of the late 90s. The first is the For the Sake of Dedication comp. Came out on Crucial Response Records in the year 1997. Second up, the Rebirth of Hardcore 1999, or the Super Soul comp, came out in, I thought it was 1999, but it says 2000 on Discogs. So
No, it says 99.
These two okay.
99.
All right. Well, on Discogs it says release 2000. But okay. Anyway, 99 or 2000, whatevs. And yeah, putting these two head to head. Ben, what is your take?
Yeah, so I bought both of these when they came out. And this was like, you know, the second wave of Youth Crew revival. Both of these are the vast majority of songs on both of these comps represent that scene. So I was all about it. I was stoked. I listened to these bands. I bought almost every record by every band on these comps. Almost, not quite everybody. So I'm gonna I did this for another one. I'm gonna lay out the pros and cons of both comps. So starting with For the Sake of Dedication, pros: cool record cover that makes me want to visit Greece, and it also makes me think of the Mouthpiece song Column. Also, the Over the Line song is great, despite having the hollowest sounding snare drum ever. And then that Half-Mast song is sick, where he's all, "You let me down." Cons of For the Sake of Dedication: the band Spawn is not good, doesn't really fit in with the theme of the subgenre, and that song is way too long, which makes it a very strange choice to open the comp with. The band Rectify is also not good. The floor Hey, I'm calling it like I hear it.
I don't know why that got me. The band Rectify is also not good. To Onward Next, man.
Well, I was going to say a Floor Punch song that was already on their demo 2 years earlier and on the Tie That Binds comp 1 year earlier, the same exact recording. So talk about redundant. And then that Onward song, well, both Onward songs drag. They sound more like Strife than a Youth Crew band to me anyway. So this comp starts with a song that's too long and ends with a song that's too long. But I would like to point out that this was 97, and there are holdovers from that kind of Strife, new age kind of sounding thing that was happening earlier in the 90s. So you still have like remnants of that. Okay, now moving on to Rebirth of Hardcore 1999. Pros. This comp came out on CD. The other one didn't, which at that point, 1997, makes me feel like it was a conscious choice. Like the dude from Crucial Response was like, I'm keeping it old school and only putting it on vinyl because the 80s.
And the CD was actually a enhanced CD-ROM, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and I wish I had a way.
Ben.
I wish I had a way of looking at that, but stupid computers don't have CD drives in them anymore. So
No, he's double pissed.
another pro of the Rebirth of Hardcore 1999 comp. Say what you will about Better Than 1,000, but these songs are sounding pretty friggin' good to me right now after listening to For the Sake of Dedication. Where Fear and Weapons Meet sounds like if Lou Collar shaved off his goatee and joined a youth crew band that did 7 Seconds covers. So that's good. That Battery Live song, I was actually at that show that was at the Whiskey in 98 on the Rev Tour, where he goes, "Go back to the gym, you fucking assholes." And now when I listen to the studio version, I want him to be saying that. So this is almost like the definitive version because I love how he starts.
You don't think he did that every single night? You don't think he said that every single night?
I should know the answer because I went to like every show, every West Coast tour stop on that tour. But
that's weird. I didn't see you in Portland.
I didn't see them in Portland. You're right.
Oh yeah,
California. But yeah, this one goes out to you macho pieces of shit out there. That rules. The band Committed is really good. This is like an entire genre of bands that are trying to sound like Youth of Today, and Committed came the closest. So kudos to them. That Live in My Eyes track is of a song that hadn't been recorded yet because it appears on the second album, which came out in 2000. So it gives us a sneak peek into their magnum opus and Nothing to Hide. The Rebirth of Hardcore comp has The Ultimate Weapon, which is Octavio and the Atari Posse. Shout out Octavio. Rain on the Parade acknowledging the legend, Rowdy Roddy Piper. Zach's favorite Heartbreakers, the Fast Breaks. You can just hear the collared shirts poking out over their sweaters when you listen to this Fast Break track. And then Shelter, pretending to be Youth of Today, is usually pretty good, even if it basically just sounds like more Better Than 1,000 songs, and that's how the comp ends. And then the cons, which is a much shorter list, is that band Eyes Shut. I think they're from Sweden. They're pretty generic. And that Saves the Day singer cannot sing. He's terrible. Good song, though. And for some reason, his voice didn't bug me back in the day, going back to what Dan was saying about this style of music. Like, I lost the taste for this guy's voice. And then there's a bunch of mini head-to-heads because there are 4 bands that are on both comps. So I'm gonna head-to-head the bands that appear on both comps and figure out which of their comp tracks win. So 10 Yard Fight, the Rebirth tracks win because, maybe I'm only think that because the recording sounds better. Sportswear, Rebirth also wins because they didn't do any Crippled Youth covers on the Rebirth comp. And it also, these later songs sound more influenced by the Bold 7-inch than the Bold LP. So it's like they evolved at the same rate as the band that they were trying to sound like in the first place. Eyeball, I'm going to give that point to For the Sake of Dedication because they have I'm Talking Straight, which is like the fucking Eyeball song. And then Main Strike, I'm giving that one to Rebirth because those Ashes style backup vocals on that song Destiny get me in the feels. So Rebirth wins, and it's not a close call at all. And that kind of surprised me because I don't remember thinking one of these comps was that much better than the other, but it is.
We were in the same camp, Ben. I remember loving this For the Sake of Dedication comp, and on re-listen, it's not the best. Like, that Spawn song is god-awful. And it's the first song on the record, which is a god-awful decision. Like, why would you start your comp with a terrible 4.5-minute song? It's literally a shit opus, you know? And then you go into like 2 10-year fight songs that have been released, you know? Because Line of Scrimmage is a demo song, so I think that's 95, and then the Brotherhood cover comes out on the CD version of the 7-inch in the demo. So that's already out. Although that Brotherhood cover is so good.
So good.
But Line of Scrimmage, I think, is one of the worst 10-year fight songs. So that's that. That Rectify song is pretty cool. We should have dueled on this band because I took way too many notes and you did too. So sorry for this diatribe, but I got to get through it. I thought that Rectify song was pretty cool, super fast. Just went for it. Plagued with Rage and Half Mast. These are both Jeremy Smith bands. Shout out. I think both the first song of Plagued with Rage and Half Mast are just okay. The second ones are when they do something more interesting. I think both the songs are pretty good. The Sportswear song, For the Sake of Dedication, this is like a goat hardcore song for me. I love this song so much. God, when it goes to the breakdown and he comes in singing that, singing songs of commitment for the sake of dedication. It's like, God damn. Like, I don't know if hardcore gets much better than that. I love it, love it, love it. And I've loved it for over 20 years and it never gets old. And when that part comes on, it just, it's like I want to Hulk Hogan rip my shirt off, you know? Like, it's so good. Crippled Youth cover, Take It or Leave It. And it's funny because like Sportswear, like they always kind of like they got that knock on them, right? Because they got one of the lamest names ever. And so, you know, and then people used to try to say they were trying to sound like Bold too much, but they sound so beefy and gnarly for this like genre. I don't think it was that accurate, but dude, on this Can't You See song, the Crippled Youth cover, it's like that bass tone is like literally like the fucking weakest bass tone I've ever heard in my life. It's so sad, you know, like when it, the way it comes in, it's just like, it's just a sad little bass tone. So that's disappointing, but whatever. Over the Line, I remember liking I had the demo on 7-inch and I remember liking it a lot. Like it's kind of unique because it was like an American demo that got re-released on vinyl on Crucial Response. And I remember liking that a lot. I haven't listened to it in a long time. I think this song is really generic and I don't love it much at all. So that was kind of disappointing. The Eyeball song, Talking Straight, rules. Not their best song, just because the first song on the 7-inch is the best, right? Where he actually says "Talking Straight" or whatever. That's my favorite. But this rules too. The Looking Back song is okay. Floor Punch, like Ben said, it's a redo. They just toss this on every comp. I think it is what it is. The 2 Main Strike songs are good. The Half Mast, I touched that. Onward, oof. Here we go again. It's like that first one is fine. It's somewhere like a mix between Main Strike and Strife. It's okay. But that last song, Journey, it's like, okay, let's book into this comp with 2 shit sandwich opuses. Rough. And then the Rebirth of Hardcore, like I always just called this a Super Soul comp. I think that's how people refer to it. I remember liking this thing a lot, but remembering that it was like hit or miss, like really, really hit or miss. And on listening to this again, it is a lot more hit than miss, in my opinion. Like the Better Than 1,000 and Shelter songs, I mean, it sounds like the same band. You know, it's like Shelter playing hardcore songs with a little bit of battery in there, right? And that's like what it is. They're all really good. They're really good Shelter hardcore songs, you know? I think these 10-Yard Fight songs are really good. So especially that Stand Again song is a great song, and they give you a little bit of that football throwback at the end in some of the lyrics, which is cool. The Falling Behind song is also good. It's maybe a little derivative of like earlier 10-Yard Fight. Like it sounds a little bit like Proud to Be Straight, but still it's really good. The Where Fear and Weapons Meet, shout out to Ben that he liked it, because God, that half full song is like, it's one of the worst songs I've ever heard in my life. And then there's a cover. Dude, just Hourglass Always Half Full, like is like a hook. Jesus. I don't know. It's just way too on the nose. It's rough. And that sucks because I think that's the guys from the Florida Powerhouse. And I love that 7-inch in demo so much. The Battery song is live. Take it or leave it. Probably just leave it. The Sportswear songs are great. The Committed songs are great. So the Sportswear Committed into In My Eyes block is like fucking awesome, which is great because I think that's all like kind of the end of the side A. Then we got Dan's favorite band, Good Clean Fun. This song sucks. They should have just let one of the girls sing the whole thing because the end part, the breakdown, is a bunch. I think it's a bunch of different girls. But whatever, that whole section, like everyone that's singing, all the female voices, like they're great. Like those are some like legit great hardcore vocals on that section, and they smoke the singer. This song just sucks. Like I don't know. It is what it is. Like it's just like kind of bad jokes. Like the sentiment is good, I guess, although it might be a little pandery. But I don't know. You wonder why you can't get a date. Like okay, and it just goes on too long. I don't know. The band is not great. Main Strike Destiny. This is one of my favorite songs of all time, and this is the better version. It's on the LP as well, but good God, like those like subtle female vocals in the background. It's like, what the fuck? This is a legit top 10 hardcore song for me. So everyone check it out. I'll put it on the playlist. Actually, this version is not on Spotify, so search for it. I'll put the LP version on. The Eyeball song is great. The Atari song is pretty good. Shout out Octavio. For the Living, the breakdown's cool. Vision, the Eyes Shut song, Vision, it's okay. That's the one that Ben called out as being generic and lame. I think it's okay. It would have been way better if they just cut it in half. There's no need for the second half of the song because the verse is just repeating itself. The Rain on the Parade songs, Piper's Pit is terrible. I can't stand it. And then Forgiven is pretty good. Fast Break, I don't think there's a good Fast Break song, so there's that. The Saves the Day song is pretty good, but it doesn't really fit the record, and there's a really long intro on it, so it makes it not fit even more. Although once the song gets going, it's pretty good, and then it ends with those Shelter songs. Fuck, Head to Head, this is pretty much a no-brainer. It is the Super Soul comp. Chris, what's your take?
Ben and Zach both said that Dedication wasn't as good as they remember it being, and I think maybe part of that might be like when they came out. I think Dedication benefited from coming out in the peak of that. You know, we all refer to it now as like 97 Youth Crew era. So like this came out in 97. This came out at the peak of that, right? So like there was never a time, you know, in this era of reliving an era from 9 years earlier. There's never been a time since then where this style was bigger, I guess, and I think Dedication benefited from being amidst that hype, whereas Super Soul comp, Rebirth of Hardcore maybe even came out. Rebirth of Hardcore 99 maybe even came out in the year 2000. So not only was it a year too late for the title, it might have been, 3 years too late for the buzz around this thing.
Isn't that so arrogant? Like that's so fucking Ray Capo, right? Like the Rebirth of Hardcore, and it's like, dude, you're like a few years late. Like that's like, I don't know, what is he there? He's probably like late 20s. It's like such boomer energy though, right? Like he just missed it, dude. It's the Rebirth of Hardcore because here I am with two of my bands like bookending this album, but that's a rough look. Sorry, Chris.
Sure. One thing I think is super cool is the international representation on both. Both very, very much Eurocentric, the non-US, but I mean, the balance of US and non-US is pretty impressive. My friends used to say that Better Than 1,000 killed Posi-Core because it was just way too positive, and people were like, oh wait, this is actually kind of cheesy. So like the embodiment of the marshmallow falling off the stick, I think. But I think there's an argument to be made that the Super Soul comp maybe helped drive some nails into the casket. That said, it's a cool comp. my impression of it when it came out, and then also now that I listened to it again for the first time in, I don't know, 20 years, there's a lot of American bands on here that I liked with pretty forgettable tracks. A lot of the American bands, their tracks kind of come off as comp tracks. And then the European bands like just bring the heat, like the Sportswear tracks, the Main Strike track, Eyeball. I know you guys said, Ben didn't like Eyes Shut, and Zach said it was okay. I actually really liked it on re-listen. So, I mean, that's another one. But as far as like the heaters for that time, like the 10-Yard Fight and Atari, that was okay. For the Living actually was a pretty good underappreciated band from this era. Some members went on to Striking Distance, which is pretty cool. The two Better Than 1,000 songs, I actually really liked them on this. Maybe it's the recording, or maybe it's headphones that I had on. It just sounded a little bit more gritty than I remember them sounding. The LPs maybe were a little bit too polished, and on these comps, these songs, I don't know if they're from the same recording or a different recording, but on my listen today, they just sounded more gritty, and I dug it. Fast Break song I thought was solid. I really liked the Saves the Day song, even though the start of it sounds like a cover of the theme song to the TV show MASH. And it's interesting, Ben talking about kind of losing his taste for this band, or at least for the vocals. This is a band that I kind of stopped listening to a ways back, but then saw them at This Is Hardcore in 2019, and it was so sick that it made me like fall back in love with this band. Like, just it was like a hardcore. They played a hardcore. It was like a hardcore band playing a hardcore fest. Like, they just played songs off the first two records and the demo, I think, and like just huge sing-alongs that rivaled like Gorilla Biscuit's set, and it was super impressive and made me kind of like re-fall in love with them, and might have been my favorite set from This Is Hardcore. And I didn't even really go into watching it expecting to really dig it, so super impressive. Last thing I'll say on this comp, I've always said that Shelter's hardcore songs are better than 1,000's hardcore songs. And I think a lot of that is just that Ray and Porcel combo is just magic. But these songs, I don't think hold true to that trend. I think the Better Than 1,000 songs are a lot better. And I think these are probably two of the worst Shelter hardcore tracks that are out there. But they got some bangers throughout all their records, like Rejuvenate. What a great song. Not on this comp though. So, I won't get in as much to Sake of the Dedicated, because this is a record that I didn't listen to a ton in my, in my life. So, I think, the Super Soul comp is going to get my vote for this, but a couple things I want to call out. Played with Rage, ripping band. The vocals are maybe the most unhinged hardcore vocals of all time. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that listen to it and absolutely hate the vocals, but I just love them. I think it's just, they're insane. Like, he's just going full balls to the wall, and I love it. I will say on the 7-inch, the backups are a lot louder than they are on this tracks, or at least more common and prevalent throughout. And so the backups on that 7-inch are super loud and make it even more unhinged. It's like the lead vocalist is like, and the backup vocals are, it gets so obscene. Like it's like they're fighting for your eardrum supremacy. I don't know. But played with Rage, sick band. I think I don't know if this is, chicken or egg situation, but I think it's funny that Sportswear does the title track for a comp. I assume they probably had the track, and then, whoever did the comp was like, that's a great name for a comp. I'm going to name it that. But I don't know. I just think it has a real Retaliate is the best vibe, and I'm down with it.
Love it. Yeah, dude. Chris,
mhm.
real quick though, that Plagued with Rage, the second one, that
Yeah.
like that hook, the leave me fucking alone. That's so sick. Like it's not like leave me the fuck alone. It's leave me fucking alone. Like is that English? Whatever it is, it's sick.
I think he's talking about masturbation. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention on that I really want to hit on the Super Soul comp. Zach, you touched on this a little bit, but the kind of creepy singing in the background shouldn't work, but somehow it does for me, and I love it. All right, back to Dedicated. Similar to Sportswear, I don't know if this is chicken or egg. I think this came out before the Eyeball 7-inch, but it's interesting that they had a 7-inch that later came out called Talking Straight that didn't have a song called Talking Straight on it, but he yells Talking Straight at the beginning.
Yep.
And then this song, which came out before, had a song called Talking Straight. And I think that's big. God's Hate by the band God's Hate on the album God's Hate vibe.
It's like the opposite. It's like
it is.
The Eyeball has Talking Straight, but it's not on the Talking Straight 7-inch.
It's everywhere. Dude, Eyeball is straight up like one of the best European hardcore bands ever.
Oh, yeah.
So big love. Floor Punch song, you guys all mentioned this. They've thrown it everywhere, but I think third time's a charm. If you're going to make sure everyone in the world hears a song of yours, it's got to be a banger, and this is the banger. This is the Floor Punch like banger, right? Main Strike. Who do you guys think is the first straight edge band to ever have a song called The Truth?
Doesn't Brotherhood have a song called The Truth?
Wide Awake, right?
Wide Awake. It's a Wide Awake cover.
Gonna have to go back and look at the timelines on that, but guilty. Yeah. Anyways, it was cool revisiting these because I like I said, I haven't listened to them in 21 years or so. So appreciate checking them out. And I'm gonna vote for the Rebirth of Hardcore 1999 from the year 2000.
Dan, what's your take?
Well, I like coming out of the corner, 3 men in the other corner, all with bats staring us down. But you know what? For the sake of dedication, I'm Xing up and I'm taking them all on. I'm voting for the sake of dedication.
Is it on the strength of that Spawn song?
I like the Spawn song.
You were a psychopath.
And something else I'll tell you, I like the fact that the Spawn song brings a little mid to late 90s on a more metallic side to give a little bit of a different taste. Yes, it is strange that it is the first song. And here I go again saying, you look at the track listing of Super Soul. Yes, your track listing, head says it should be this, but my heart says for the sake of dedication. When this LP comp came out, I think I played it into the absolute ground. It's yellow vinyl, right? When this came out, I'm trying to think. Of.
Mine's on black. It's not all fancy.
Oh,
like
green. It was green. But yeah, I played this record into the ground. The Sportswear songs, I actually the 10-Yard Fight, like it's got demo tracks, right? And everything just sounds so not as good as the Rebirth of Hardcore comp, but it's just in that nostalgic like moment for me where I'd already rocked this for 2 full years before the other comp came out.
But Dan, I gotta call you out here. Did you not do your homework? Because this is, and that's okay if you didn't, because you've been busy. But everything you're saying is everything that I remember about this comp. Like, dude, if you asked me before we did this episode, which wins in these two, I'm For the Sake of Dedication all day. The way it looks, the lineup, just my memories about it. I love this thing, like start to back in my memory. And then listening to it, like I listened to it on a walk and I was like, dude, this is not great. And it was like heartbreaking almost. You know what I mean? Like just listening to it again and being like, oof. Like I remember this thing being like great and it's like barely pretty good.
No, I still think it holds up. I like it. I listened to it twice today.
Okay.
It just brings back memories. Also, you know, one comp has floor punch, the other one doesn't. I will agree that Onward is not good. I will give you that.
Dan throws us a bone.
Yeah, but you know, I love both the comps. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to go ad nauseum track by track because it's already been done by all three of you. I just vibes wise and a moment in time, For the Sake of Dedication. Also, it's straight edge compilation. The other one is a hardcore compilation.
Well,
also,
there's that.
Well, I'm saying like the rebirth of hardcore, like it's not all edge, is it?
Yeah. So which album has more sellouts on it now?
I don't know. I mean, there's more tracks on the second one. The one thing, the Wide Awake cover by Main Strike is sick. I mean, you get two Main Strike songs on this, but you get Destiny on the other one, so tough. But okay, I'm just going to break it down to a simple formula here for you, and this is why. One comp has floor punch, and one comp does not. And furthermore, one comp has good, clean fun, and one comp does not. So, one comp has floor punch and no good, clean fun, and one comp has good, clean fun and no floor punch. Therefore, For the Sake of Dedication, which has floor punch and no good, clean fun, wins.
I think that's a pretty good argument, although I would say that the Floor Punch song is just a push. It's not a positive or a negative because it had already been released for at least 2 years at the time of this comp.
Okay, I can understand things like that, but let's think about the comp as a piece of art of putting a compilation of tracks together. If you hadn't heard Floor Punch before, but you got this comp in this time and then it turned you onto that, do you know what I mean? Like, it could be so important for you to have picked this up, or furthermore, just listening to a collection of songs curated in a way is a rad thing, and this stands alone and is bettered by having the Floor Punch song on it.
No, I agree. And this is like Apex Floor Punch. Like, I can't get enough of it this much time later, right? So you're right. You're right on that. So it's 3-1 here on the Super Soul comp over For the Sake of Dedication, which is very disappointing. Because I do want to talk a little more on this, though. Let's just keep dragging this out. I do think it's pretty interesting because, For the Sake of Dedication comes out in 97, so it's like in the thick of all of this. And it's disappointing looking back and having it not be as great, where, 1999 or 2000, this stuff is getting a little long in the tooth, and it's kind of wild how much good stuff is on here. Like, Committed, like, that band is pretty late. Like, I wonder if they came out in 96, 97, how they'd be looked at, if they were a little earlier on the swing of this stuff, because these songs are really, really good. And I would like you guys' take on Chris bringing up that him and his friends used to joke, like, did Better Than 1,000 kill Posi-Core? Because, like, that is an interesting theory. And it's all here, like, on this record, right? There's multiple things on this record that may have been the final nails in the coffin here. Better Than 1,000, like, that's a great example. and then also you have like Good Clean Fun, like oof, another Good Clean Fun song, and then you have this Where Fear and Weapons Meet. I can't get away from it. Like, our glass, always half full. Like, oh God, is there anything that makes you want to listen to Neglect more? I just want to listen to like Neglect and Hatebreed for a year after hearing that, and then it's like,
though.
What's that?
Hatebreed has some pretty Posi-Core lyrics though.
That's true. That's true. They in the later era, right? When it's like, not on Satisfaction on the 7-inches,
but on Perseverance.
Yes, Perseverance like is pretty motivational. Like you're gonna pick up a keto diet and do this. But Where Fear and Weapons Meet, like that song, and then like the 7 Seconds cover, like it's just so lazy too. So it's like one of the worst songs, and then followed up with a cover like a song that everyone knows. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like those three, like that 1, 2, 3 punch of better than 1,000, more better than 1,000 tracks after. I think that Live Today song is spectacular, but like both the CDs I think are terrible. And then here you got 2 more songs of that. You got Good Clean Fun, and you got this Where Fear and Weapons Meet. Like that might have killed the genre for real. Dan, what do you think?
I mean, it's an interesting point, but I was annoyed at Better Than 1,000 for just even coming around to start with. Just, my cynical nature. But I will say on this comp, they sound pretty good. They sound pretty good right here. The thing about it's an element of what we've talked about in the past, but it was the sheer glut of so many bands coming out and not being able to stand to the peers that came 2 years before, That's the thing that really killed it.
Let me add a fourth thing. It's like that idea of like the Rebirth of hardcore, like, literally like 4 years after the Floor Punch demo. Like that whole like mentality is so upsetting too. So maybe like those 4, like that's the Mount Rushmore of what killed Posi-Core, right? Better Than 1,000, Good Clean Fun, these Where the Fear and Weapons Meet songs, and Ray Kappa's 1999 mentality. What do you think, Ben? What's your take on that?
Well, I just love that there's a third head up there. It's just these 2 Where Fear and Weapons Meet songs.
These 2 songs, they're enough to get straight up ether a genre. I don't know. Ben, what's your take? And Chris, how do you feel about like this theory that you and your friends have had for 20 years finally getting hashed out on podcasts?
I think Floor Punch had a lot to do with killing Posi-Core because they were in this scene. They weren't positive at all. They were very good. People liked them. They pointed kids in the direction of other non-positive bands, or I should say negative bands. That's what non-positive is. So you have bands that are corny, and then you have bands that corny bands flying the Posi flag, and then you have negative bands who are playing good music. So I guess that combination maybe.
Chris, let's wrap up this topic, but let's get your final take since you floated this theory.
We've talked before, like ad nauseum, about how there were a million horrible Youth Crew revival bands and how much we loved all of them. I think you get to a point where you can't love more bad bands, and I think that had a lot to do with it. Like there were some great bands still. I mean, in my eyes, like their record came out in 2000, Count Me Out, a little bit of a different take on the genre, Carry On, a little bit of a different take on the genre. Some of the bands that we were all in, a little bit of different take on the genre, but by and large, there were a lot of bad bands, I think, that kind of threw an anchor down. And I think maybe I'm not right here, but I feel like a similar thing also happened to kind of like the Beatdown sound around the same time. Like there were a billion bad beatdown bands, and they were lovable if you liked that style, which I did at the time. And then you got to a point where there were a lot of them and you couldn't really like any more bad ones. And again, there were still some good ones, but the bad ones kind of anchored the whole genre for a while. So I don't know.
Let me put it this way to you guys. If we can all agree, let's get some consensus going. So the Mount Rushmore of what killed 90s Posi-Core, we can all agree that Better Than 1,000 and Good Clean Fun are two of the icons, right? They're up there on the Mount Rushmore. Is that consensus?
No comment.
Oh, come on. We're not going to go there on this. This is so safe.
I think the question.
I think Good Clean Fun. All right. Repeat it.
We're building the Mount Rushmore of what killed 90s Posi-Core, Dan. Can we agree that Better Than 1,000 and Good Clean Fun are two of the four?
Yeah.
Okay, Ben, what are you thinking?
As far as
do you agree those are two of the four or no?
A no, because Good Clean Fun began to wear thin on for a lot of people a little later, like 2001-ish. Like they outlasted a lot of this stuff. So I don't think they're responsible for killing it, because people got sick of them after all these other bands had already broken up. So that the timeline doesn't really make sense to blame it all on them.
I'm not. I'm saying they're a tentpole. They're one of four things. Also,
I'll also say
Ray Capo's 1999 Mentality and these two Where Fear and Weapons Meet songs. Can we agree on any of these four? So we got Better Than 1,000, right? That's all. Chris, you're out of it because you're too posy, right? You're like, it's not dead. It's coming back any day now. That's fine. But Dan and Ben, can we agree? Better Than 1,000 is at least 1/4 of what killed 90s Posi-Core.
Yes.
Okay, and Dan's in on Good Clean Fun as well. Ben, what's your take? What killed it?
Ben's take about Good Clean Fun is right, because Good Clean Fun in like 99 and 2000.
It's past by then, dude. When's the 7-inch? Like 98?
Yeah, but they're still putting out records. Like they're still drawing big up into like 2001-ish probably. So,
and I'll say their legacy outlasted their staying power within this 97 crowd. Like I think they kind of wore thin on the 97 crowd earlier than this, and then were playing to like bigger crowds, you know? Like I remember seeing Good Clean Fun playing and like dudes in crew shirts singing, or like dudes in like, you know, Bleeding Through shirts singing along, you know?
Dude, the 7 inches are 98. By the year 2000, Good Clean Fun is like a terrible joke.
No.
It's a little later than that.
In 2000.
Well, by the time that everyone comes around is like, okay, this band's a total joke. But like, come on, you guys, I barely liked the second 7-inch, kind of.
Well, I'm thinking like in 2000, I know this person who he's like, no, I'm going to sell this record. I'm going to hold on to this Good Clean Fun test press because this is going to be worth millions.
That was a financial strategy, not because I liked the record.
Do you know what? You're going to be the fourth member of What Killed 97. You holding on to that Good Clean Fun test press thinking that you were going to make millions.
You know what killed this scene? Here's what killed this scene.
Yes, I know. It was Better Than 1,000. It was Good Clean Fun. It was these two Where Fear and Weapons Meet songs. and Ray Capo's 1999 Mentality. It's funny you should ask, because yes, I do know.
Okay, well, here's what I think happened. These bands broke up, and other bands that sound like them did not replace them because the next crop of kids were trying to sound like American Nightmare and fucking wear black.
Yeah, we don't want an actual real answer, Ben. We want
okay.
to know why you think. Also,
well, no, we agree with Ben's answer, but it's what drove them to that, and it's pretty obvious. It's better than 1,000. It's good, clean fun. It's these two were Fear and Weapons beat songs and Ray Capo's 1999 mentality.
furthermore,
That's what drove them to want to sound like that, and that's
Drive-
why bands did not replace.
well, to drive deeper into that where Fear and Weapons meet, that our glass is half full line is just god damn you for that one. Like, I love a positive song, but that is just why don't you sing a chorus about I flipped a coin today and I predicted heads and it came up heads.
Oh God. Okay, Dan, take us out with life's a piece of shit when you look at it.
Yeah. Always look on the bright side of life.
I'm taking it back to the old school because I'm an old fool.
I'm taking it back to the old school because I'm an old fool.
Yo, what's up, motherfuckers? Old school.
All right, we're going old school. I wanted to talk 2 7-inches, the late 70s, straight out of Chula Vista, California. Talking about the band The Zeros, their first 7-inch, the Don't Push Me Around /Wimp 7-inch on Bomp, and their second 7-inch, the Wild Weekend / Beat Your Heart Out 7-inch, also on Bomp, 1977 and 1978. Both these are great. Ben, what's your take on these?
Yeah, going into this, I thought Don't Push Me Around would take it. In fact, I think I picked Don't Push Me Around for the best of 70s, the 50 best punk records of the 70s list. I think I put that one on there.
You
I did. Okay.
You did.
Yeah, so I thought that would take it because to me this is like the definitive Zeros song. When someone says the Zeros, I have that song plays in my head. And then that song Wimp is really cool too, and it's full of attitude. But I gotta say, Wild Weekend is a rager, and Beat Your Heart Out is a goddamn classic. And that second single came out during the great year of 1978 when Lil Bedge popped out crying and screaming, covered in amniotic fluid. Wild Weekend for the win. If you want,
this is not a head-to-head. We're just talking about him in general.
Oh, I thought this was a head-to-head.
No, that was the last segment. This is just old. This is the old school segment, but I wanted to talk both of them because, yeah, most people consider that "Don't Push Me Around" Wimp 7-inch like the classic, but I think that the Wild Weekend "Beat Your Heart Out" one is way better. It's the one that made my 70s list. Yeah, "Don't Push Me Around" Wimp, they're cool. It's like, old sounding rock and roll. It's cool. Both the songs are cool, right? But Wild Weekend is just a tick faster and it's still just as catchy. So it's like way better in my opinion. And I like all this stuff. And then Beat Your Heart Out is a straight ripper. For like 78, it goes hard, dude. So that's like their hardest track, but Wild Weekend is like kind of a perfect middle ground of all of it. Like it goes harder than the first 7-inch, but it's still like super catchy like the first 7-inch. So I just think this is also notable, and also like this is a great example of early, like all these dudes are Mexican American too, right? So it's not all white people in Southern California playing punk in 77 and 78. So that's notable as well. It's pretty sick. And they still jam sometimes. I saw them maybe 4 years ago at a tattoo shop opening, and they were super good. So pretty sick. Ben, you got anything else on this, or should I send it off to Dan?
I saw them, I don't even know how many years ago now, and at the Troubadour, and this won't mean anything to you, Zach. In fact, this will be like a point against them for you, but like I thought to myself, this is the closest I'll ever get to seeing the Beatles play the Cavern Club. This is like that level of excellence. And also, two of them shared the same mic and bobbed their heads like total Beatles style, like 100%. Fucking awesome. Great band. My friend David Jones is writing a book about the first 5 punk bands to play in LA, and that includes the Dills and the Zeros, who are actually both from San Diego County. So hopefully one day that goddamn book will be out and we can know all about them and who engineered their records.
Yeah, super cool too, because like they have kind of a resurgence in the '90s, possibly in Spain. Like some Spanish label puts out one of their records, like an LP, and so I think they kind of rocking it out there in the 2000s. So kind of cool. Yeah, they have that longevity, and also like their collection of the early material is very easy to get. You'll see it around. It's like a black album cover that has like the zeros in red on front. I think it's just called "Don't Push Me Around." I'm looking at it right now. You'll see it in record stores. So it's kind of a, if you want to get some old school punk rock in your record collection and you don't want to spend a ton of money, it's there. And this is all their classic stuff on one record put together. So yeah, sick. Dan, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, love both these. Loved them forever. Will continue to love them infinitely. I do like Beat Your Heart Out the best. I also think it's so funny, like, you're a wimp. Just thinking of, like, that as, like, a lyric, just wimp. Like, it's just such a funny, it is so, like, I suppose, of the day, but it's just gives it such a kitschy, funny vibe, like listening to it these days, But the Zeros, incredible. San Diego gods. It's great to bring this up just in case anybody listening has never really checked in or listened to the Zeros. It's perfect start of punk music.
Chris, were you aware of this band at all?
No. I've heard their name before, but I've actually never listened to them. This is a blind spot for me, which is interesting because I dig a lot of stuff of this era, like this pre-'80s punk stuff. But I guess I lean heavily into the CBGB stuff at like the Midwest bands, and admittedly, probably need to explore more of the California 70s punk. But yeah, I've heard their name around forever, but just never got around to check them out. So it was cool to listen to them. I dig it, and sick that they're Chula Vista OGs.
All the way OG. Did either of the 7 inches like stand out to you one more than the other at all?
No, not particularly. I mean, I thought it was all good. So, I mean, maybe if as I listen to it more, like some songs will start to pop, but yeah, I just really liked it all.
Ben, for the people before we wrap this up, how would you describe how this band sounds on these 2 7 inches for the people?
Kind of like the band Split System from Australia. I'm just kidding. They're
all,
like,
yeah, okay.
They're like a mid-tempo 70s punk band, like punk rock and roll kind of. The singer has real attitude. I want to say the Beat Your Heart Out is one of the other members is a lead vocalist on that. Just real attitude, like, wow, these guys must be cool. Like, that's what I think when I listen to this, like, but not cool like dickhead popular kid cool, like actually cool dudes, like the Fonz, like you want to be friends with. That's as close as I can get. I mean, this could have been on Danger House. This fits right in with all the Danger House stuff. So if you're familiar with like the Bags, the Avengers, the Weirdos, like that, all those bands, this is in there with all that.
Yeah, everyone check it out if you haven't heard it before, or if you just want to jam it because they kick ass. Say that, start over, because I don't know if it was recording yet. Here we go. Whoa. Go. Are you guys there?
Yeah, that was weird.
That was super weird. Dude, we're getting haunted by the youth crew.
Infinite loop.
What the fuck? All right.
There's a ghost of Ray Capo's Edge.
He's all, what's up? The ghost of Timmy Johanna's got nothing on me. All right, Dan, final thoughts on the pod.
This was a fun one. I really liked the variety and different sounds of music that we discussed this time. I really liked having some scientific thought and put to why the Mount Rushmore of what killed 97 hardcore, put that together. And that's a real gift to the world. And, I'm just looking at things with a half full mentality. I loved it. And you can find me at Southport Instagram.
Okay. Ben, final thoughts?
Better than 1,000. Good, clean fun. Those two Where Fear and Weapons Meet tracks, and Ray Capo's 1999 mentality.
Chris, any final thoughts on the pod?
No.
Respect. All right. Dan, you told us, but tell us again, where can the people find you?
At Southport Instagrammer on Instagram.
Dan, you got to get a good night's sleep. You deserve it. Ben, where can the people find you?
On Instagram at Cold Chillin' Book.
Chris, where can the people find you?
Twitter and Instagram, Chris Williams51 or NWHC Radio, no spaces.
Hell yeah. NWHC Radio, handle business, people. You can find me 185 miles south at gmail.com is the best way. I respond to everyone. Also 185 miles south on Instagram and Twitter. My personal is Zach Retaliate on Instagram. And Retaliate is the best on Instagram. Everyone, we love you all, except for Better Than 1,000. These good, clean fun. These two Where Fear and Weapons Meet songs, and Ray Capo's 99 mentality. Everyone else, we love you. We'll talk to you again soon.